Welcome to Feral Mr. Nice Guy. I'm your host, M&G, and welcome to another episode. We are doing one-on-one interviews, and I have the pleasure of having Shawn Harper here with me to discuss some of the things in his background when it comes to just a little bit of everything and some of the things that he overcome. So, Shawn, please tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, as he mentioned, my name is Shawn Harper. Played about 7 years professional football with the Rams, with the Colts, NFL Europe. Had just a blast playing at the professional level. I was marred with a lot of challenges growing up, documented with 4 to 5 learning disabilities, and just repeating the first grade, being kicked out of several schools, disciplinary issues, and having to go off to a junior college, stuttered, just a lot of just adversity. But the thing about adversity that I love is that adversity can break you, but it also can make you a record breaker. And the difference in that is perspective. One of the things that I've learned is that winners, world changers, dominators, always look to what they're going to. Victims always tend to focus on what they're going through.
Right.
And it was very interesting just keeping in tune with this is that originally I didn't want to play football. I couldn't stand football, and my mom was like, I remember her saying, you're going to play football because you need positive male role models in your life.
Yeah.
You need men in your life. I had 5 brothers and sisters, but, you're going to play football. And I couldn't stand it, but meeting and interacting with these male figures, the football coaches, just challenged you all the time, just get in your face almost every other day. That had a huge impact on my life. Just having those men just to, as I say, call the king out of the kid was just absolutely insurmountable in my development.
So when we're looking at adversities and then you talk about the individuals that were in your life, now, what would you say would be the biggest impact that those coaches, those father figures actually had on you, knowing or not knowing that, you had those learning disabilities and you've been kicked out of a few schools, and knowing that, okay, well, we really have to work with this kid and, really kind of push him to his limits because we see the potential in him.
Right. Being able to see past the moment. That's one of the hallmarks of fatherhood, is when you're raising your son and or daughter, that you're able to see past the moment. Like, I'm not correcting you for today. I'm correcting you for 20 years from now, 25 years from now, when you're going to be looking at other opportunities and you're going to have to make decisions. I'm preparing you for the battle as a man. I'm preparing you as a battle as a woman. And that's kind of the hallmarks of just an absolute amazing father. And coaches, good coaches that I've had along the way were able to see that in me. Like they'd always say, Shawn, if you ever get your stuff together, you're going to be a great football player. You could do this, you can do that. I'm like, how in God's name can you see any of that in me? Because I sure can't see it in myself. But they had the ability to see the king in the kid.
And I've been in those situations where people have seen the potential in me to move forward and move past my own insecurities, my own self-esteem, and my own doubts. And, I've had a lot of mentors and supervisors that were over me as I was going through my career. And they was just like, you have potential to be so much more and you don't even see it. And I'm like, of course I don't see it, because I'm only looking for now. I'm
Right.
only looking for, what can I do now? What can I gain now? And that's it. I couldn't see what 5 years on this same trajectory was going to look like. But they seen it, and they was relentless in pushing me forward in that career to keep going and going and going, even when I wasn't going to apply for certain positions. Even when I got into those positions, I still had doubts that I can change a department around or be influential to employees and develop them in a way to where, they'll be successes either in my department or somewhere else within the facility. I didn't see it. So the fact that you even telling me that when you're raising a child, that you're not correcting them for the moment, but you're correcting them for the future, that's powerful. Because think about all the times and the events that you may have had said something, or something was said to you, and you thinking, well, how is this going to benefit me? Or you were told a story, or you was lectured. Like my grandma used to lecture me a lot, and I never understood why she kept telling me these stories of, how, at the time, she was discriminated against, and what happened to her when she was at work with certain employees. I never really understood it until I got into the workforce and I seen it myself. And we're talking about 10 years from the time she told me the story till I entered the workforce and was able to actually understand, man, like she was actually telling me something that was beneficial to the future. And I think that some kids don't get that opportunity to have their potential seen and have somebody go the distance for them, so they'll be able to see past themselves and go forward and just kind of proceed and go and just do such great things. Now, I want to ask you, what obstacles did you have to overcome along the journey? You know, and how was the transition from being a player to being an owner? Because you're a CEO, a speaker, so you did these phenomenal things. So the transition, so overcoming through the journey, as well as the transition from being a player to being an owner.
Yeah. So about 99% of all of my challenges was right here. You know, is believing a lie. Somebody's saying things repetitively. You're not this. You can't do this. You'll never make it. Even if you try to prove them wrong, a part of you believes that lie.
Mm,
And and it's really interesting. It's because eventually, if you're not careful and if you don't move and flow with intention, you will you will come back to what you are. You in life, you never get what you deserve. You only get what you are. You never get what you want. You never get what you deserve. You rarely get what you deserve. You only get what you are. And so, in order for you to change what's going on the outside, you got to change what's basically happening on the inside. And when you change what's happening on the inside, then you can infect and affect and cause an effect of things on the outside. So you have to, internal personal development is a must. You have to live with that because you always got to break down. You can always tell when you're growing. And one of the ways that I can tell when I'm moving or when I'm moving to another level is that there will be strains in relationships and people around you. The people around you, basically, you will cause a dichotomy in their life. And what I mean by that is they still want to treat you the old way, but you're a new person, but they're still trying to pull you back into that old mode.
mhm.
That's the dichotomy. That's when you know that you're growing and that you're moving through and past other individuals and that you're growing up. Uh, so that would, actually answer the first part of that. Making the transition from uh, being a professional athlete to a business owner, it was probably the hardest transition of my life.
Okay.
I'm sorry, one of the hardest transitions of my life because of the fact that I never, outside of having a paper route, I never had a job in my life. I was never immersed into the corporate culture.
Okay.
Um, I had a paper route at one about for 6 months, and I think I worked at the golf course in the summertime. But outside of that, and so what I was able to do though is that I said, well, I'm going to treat my corporate life like I treat my football life. So I never left the playing field. So when I come into work, I'm in straight competitive mode. I'm on like 10. I'm ready
Mhm.
because what happens is that they like to take former athletes and say, well, you played football now and or basketball, so now you have to move into corporate America and this is what we do, and then and this is the key performance indicators, and this is best practices and all that and all this talk. But one day I look back and I'm like, well, wait a second. 0.02% of any athlete makes it to the NFL for 1 year. And it's even less for the NBA. But do you know what type of level that I have to perform at to make it to the professional ranks? And you're
Wow.
sitting here in corporate America and all you're using is your mind. You're using your mind. I'm using my mind, my body, my emotions, my spirituality. Uh, I'm using my intellect all at the same time. There is nothing more superior than a fine-tuned collegiate or professional athlete because you have to use everything. If your physical is not at its best, you're going to get hurt. If your mental is not at its best, you're going to get hurt. If your emotional is not at its best, you're going to get hurt. All that is happening congruently at the same time. Corporate America, all you're using is your intellect and you're pushing a pen. If you don't work out for a month, who cares?
Right.
If you're having a messed up day and your emotions are out of whack, who cares? You can mask it all day. Life is great and you can laugh. You can't do that as a collegiate or a professional athlete. So what I did was, well, wait a second. I'm going to take that mindset and I'm going to bring it into the workplace. I'm not leaving the playing field. I'm still playing the game. And if you don't know it's a game, you'll be played by the game. And so I move physically, mentally, socially. I move in authenticity. I move at the same time, everything in me. And that makes me a pretty daggone good business person. Not the best. I'm far from the best, but I'm pretty good at it.
Knowing that your transition from player to business person was difficult, what would you say was your best decision and was your worst decision?
I think that my worst decision, I think, was to take on a security company.
Okay.
And I think that my best decision was to take on a security company. It probably was the best and worst decision. What I mean by that, and I'll explain, is that the impacts were so dramatic. Before I took on the security company, I was on a different trajectory as far as speaking, as far as ministering. Security company just put a big cog in that thing.
Mm,
But it was the best decision because it taught me so much that had I went forth into the ministry, into speaking, uh, with my current trajectory, I guarantee you that I would have been in somebody's headlines. There's no doubt in my mind that
wow.
I would have been in somebody's headlines. Shawn did something he shouldn't have did, blah, blah. This company has has beaten me down in a way that it produces so much humility, so much brokenness, so much transparency. Although I'm not where I could be, 8 or 9 figures or doing this and that. But as far as a man being in the midst of a crucible and not giving up,
Mhm.
man, I tell you what, I've learned so much about life, about people, and it's not quantitative. It's like you can't really measure the growth that I've been through as a business owner. It's amazing.
Man, that is very intriguing. I wouldn't have thought that a security company, and I guess depending on what you're securing,
Hmm.
it could result in news headlines, and that's all bad when you're trying to create a positive image and you're trying to keep your business flourishing. You
Hmm.
know, that's not being in the news is not always good press.
No, no, not at all. It's careful because nowadays being in the limelight, uh, there was a time that if you're in the limelight, you would be admired.
Yes.
But But being in the limelight in 2024 just simply makes you a target.
It does. I really agree. It puts you in line with cancel culture. It puts you in line
Yeah,
with
it's like but there is a season to where you have to be able to brave that. So now imagine I'm on the old trajectory. I'm speaking all over the world. I'm doing and some things, some questionable things may have happened because I wasn't mature enough.
yeah,
And then 6 or 7 years later, well, Sean, we have evidence of you doing this and you doing that. Well, that was 7, 8 years ago, guy. It's too late. You're canceled,
yeah.
and you're canceled forever. So
There's no signs of coming back, and I think that's such a downfall when it comes to social media and everything. Is
yeah,
that
it's very few people have come back from being canceled.
yes, I mean you have to have a strong presence and celebrity ability to come back. Even if
Yeah,
you go in hide and still try to come back, they won't forget.
no.
They will not
So
allow you to forget.
so so now I'm looking at my tenure at the security company as an incubator.
Okay.
When my son was born, first of all, he had the most unusual birth ever, right? Because he was born and he didn't cry. He didn't say a word. He just born. It was funny. He just came out. He didn't say a word. He just looked around like, why y'all wake me up? And then they took him and they were really worried. So they took him and they put him in an incubator. And
Okay.
so he spent about 3 or 4 days or 5 days in an incubator. Like he wouldn't cry. He's like, "Can you please cry?" He didn't say a word. But then they put him in an incubator and we couldn't see him. Well, he wasn't ready. So now check it out. Look at me. Look at the things that I've gone through as a business owner. It's like I'm ready for some stuff now.
Okay.
I'm mature. I know the consequences of certain things. 10 years ago, I'd have been a train wreck. I'd have been a
Man,
train wreck 10 years ago.
wow. I like that analogy. I like that. So, with all that you've learned and what you have been through, what advice would you give to those that are either transitioning or trying to start a business from the ground up?
Wow. Whew. What advice I would give to somebody who's trying to start a business from the ground up?
Yes.
First of all, don't start from the ground up. You have too much information out there. You have too much. You got AI platforms. You have so much that you can
Yeah.
use. That's number one. Number two, I would say you always build leverage. You always build leverage. There's nothing worse than being at a certain position in business and you have no leverage.
Okay.
What I mean by that is you have to show up. You have to do this. You have to play the corporate game because you don't have no leverage. And you've been out leveraged because you have a house that's worth, $2.4 million. So guess what? You're going to laugh at the CEO's jokes, aren't you? You're going to
Hmm.
go to every meeting, aren't you? And guess what? You're not going to show up late. You go well, and in the back of your mind, you're like, is there like another round of layoffs, merger, acquisition? Is this something? You're out leveraged. You don't have leverage. So therefore, you live your life like fearful. So from day one, you build leverage. I got my son right now. He's going to school. He's a senior at the University of Kentucky. And I'm like, he's going to have a degree in computer science. And I'm like, I'm teaching him blockchain right now.
Right.
I'm teaching him how to build trading bots right now. Well, I'm not teaching him. I'm getting on his nerve. I'm like, learn this stuff. Why? Because it's leverage. You never want to be out leveraged in life. And number three is you got to find a mentor. Because everything that I've learned now, if I have a young Shawn Harper that comes in there, I'm like, oh, bruh, don't do that. Don't do that. I mean, you can get 20 years of experience, man,
Wow.
just from one conversation. Like, shut up, get in this class, do this. I'm teaching you through my pain. Do
Yes.
this, do that, go here. blah, blah, blah. No, don't go to that networking event. No, go to that networking event. Do this and do that. Get your cash flow right.
I want to kind of jump back to when you said leverage and the
Yeah,
analogies you had used with leverage. It makes me think that, because like you said, going to work, you got this mortgage, your job could be getting a merger, doing layoffs, and you're fearing for your job because they have a hold on you,
yes,
and you can't do nothing but go to work and punch that clock because one, your cash flow is probably not in the positive because
yes,
you got debts out there, right?
yes,
And when I talk about debts, I'm not talking about just credit card bills, like your cell phone bill, your DT, your electric bill, just all things that you need in order to survive, right?
yes,
And those are being debited against your current cash flow.
yes,
So if you had like $2,000, if you were making $4,000 a month, but your net cash flow is only 500 because 3,500 is going towards bills,
yes.
what do you have to invest or work with?
Hmm.
You don't have anything.
You,
So
it's yeah, yeah.
when we talk about leverage, so let me ask you this, and this is a
Go ahead.
sidewinder question.
Go
Would
ahead.
you say that the way the economy is going in society, do you think that it has a leverage on the middle class and the lower class because prices are starting to get a little outrageous?
So
Speaking of leverage,
yeah. So in order not to be leveraged, you have to be willing to sacrifice.
okay,
Okay. So let me give you an example. Let's say I made so much a year. Let's say I made $20,000 a year. This is just a low, super low number. I make $20,000 a year, right?
right,
And there's this car that's worth $75,000. I want that car. Now I can still make the payments probably, but because I want that car, I've been out leveraged
okay,
because now I got to pay all that money for that car to look good, to feel good about myself, to have a sense of status and prestige. But now I'm working two jobs plus Uber plus doing this because I want to keep up that lifestyle.
right,
So guess what? Now there's stress in the house. Now mama ain't happy. Now there's a payoff. So now if there's a hiccup in the road, if there's a hospital bill, if this and that, you've been out leveraged. Now you're underwater.
mm-hmm.
Versus saying, I might not be able to have that lifestyle, but I have leverage that if I got to write a check for $1,000, I could do that. If I can give $1,000 or $10,000 to the poor, I can do that. Now, I might not have that lifestyle. I might not be living on that level. Everyone might be like speaking behind my back, hey, he should be living a certain way. Yeah, that's fine. But I got leverage. I can leave. I can pick up right now and go to the airport and leave the country right now. I got leverage.
Mm.
Leverage is so powerful because leverage is freedom. I got freedom. So there's a sacrifice there. And the people listening to me, you have to be willing to resist the new iPhone, the new this, the new that, the new this, because it's never free. There's a cost, and the cost is your leverage. And the worst place to be in the universe, I see it in people's eyes every day when I drive to work. I look to the left, I look to the right, and I look in their eyes. They have no leverage. So I don't care if you're 46 or 56 or 76, you start building leverage today. Like what I'm doing right now, I'm putting a lot of energy into my online courses. COVID out leveraged me.
Mm.
It was like I woke up one day and all my speaking engagements are 99% of every engagement I had was gone within 48 hours.
Wow.
I was out leveraged. I'm like, I will never be out leveraged again. Not like that. Had I not had the company, I would be in big trouble.
Wow. When you think about COVID and you know that a lot of businesses shut down, I wasn't even thinking about speaking engagements because a lot of them had, eventually moved online.
Right.
So, but that was
Eventually.
eventually, and it was like a quick adapt that
Hmm.
had to happen for a lot of companies to kind of pivot really quickly to move towards a different route since everybody was pretty much at home for almost a year or so.
Right.
And it made it difficult for business to actually stay afloat because of that. Man, I didn't even think about it like that. Speaking
Yeah.
engagements, we talking about auditoriums, 300, 400 to maybe 500 people.
Yeah. It
Can't even
wasn't
happen
happening.
anymore.
No, it was done. And so guess what? It can happen again.
And
So my mindset now is okay, like if you looked at my office, I got a green screen, I have lighting, uh, I'm working on turning this into a studio
hmm
because I'm not only going to be ready for that opportunity if and when it hits again, but I'm going to leverage the planet Earth. Do you know how many people are in the world? There's 423 or 430 million people in the US. There's 8 billion people in the world.
yep, yeah,
So they have AI programs that I can speak right here, and then it comes out in Portuguese, automatically translated. So
yep,
guess what? I need to be speaking and blessing people in Portugal. I need to be speaking and blessing people in Pakistan, wherever it is that I'm going to China, New Zealand. Frick. I'm like, there's 8 billion people. I need to leverage the world, right?
yes.
That going to let's go. Let's go.
You're absolutely right. So
Yeah,
just to jump back, I know we kind of went off topic a little bit, just a little bit.
just a little
Um,
bit.
just jumping back, um, through all those through all the things, we had just talked about self-last transition. Now, what was your resolve or any mantra or motto that kept you going?
Oh man. So I tell you, I got to lead into that with a story.
Okay,
Um, so my father left when like I was about 3 years old,
okay,
and my mom cried. She cried. She said, "God, how am I going to make it?" Right? And God told her, if you give so much to the poor every month, I will always take care of you. And that's what my mama did. She would give to the poor. She worked as a maid, and then she would give to the poor. And we were so blessed. So my mantra is now, I've adopted the same mindset and concept, and it doesn't come to you if it can't get through you. So I live my life by laws, not by rules. I hate rules, but laws, well, I don't hate all rules. I hate a lot of rules, but laws were in place before the foundation of the world. There were laws. Okay. That's why God rested on the Sabbath, because it was a spiritual law in place before he wrote the law. It was already in place.
right,
Tithing. Abraham gave 10% to some king named Melchizedek. That's a law. It was before he wrote the law, it was in place, right? So these laws and orders are in place. And the more I learn, the more I live by the laws. So one law says that if you give, it will be given back to you. I live my life on that law. So I live my life on just laws. As soon as I find a law, I'm like, I write it down and I live off that law, that spiritual law.
wow. And I think, and you're right. Giving is so much more rewarding than receiving. And when you give, I think it fills you up with an unspeakable joy in seeing somebody actually benefit from giving to somebody else.
Yeah.
It's rewarding on so many different levels. I don't think that, and I'm speaking to people that's like probably like a little selfish that want to do more taking than actually giving.
Yes.
and I don't think they will understand the rewarding feeling by giving. I have given and had conversation with some people, just from just being at the bus stop or sit at a restaurant by myself, and for some reason somebody just I look approachable, so they'll come and they'll have
Yeah.
conversation, or they'll bless me with some knowledge and some wisdom that I wasn't looking for but I needed at that time. Or I'll see somebody struggling, and I'll give them something. Like I have a story to share. I was leaving work and I was going on lunch, and I was just walking down the street, and I wanted to go and get some ice. So it's this place called Detroit Ice in downtown Detroit. So I went over there and got some Detroit ice. So I was coming back to work, and this guy was sitting on the side, and it was payday. He was like, "Hey, can you get me a sandwich?" And I was like, "Well, I don't have no cash," and I just kind of just brushed it off. But then I kept going, and then something was like, "No, come back, give him something." Like, he's sitting out here, it's hot outside, everybody's walking past him, nobody is
Right.
trying to give him anything.
Right.
So I went into the little corner island that he was sitting next to. He was like, "Look, they already know my order. Just tell him it's for," I can't remember his
Wow.
name.
Uh-huh.
We gonna say
Uh-huh.
Tim. Say it's for Tim. So I go in there and talk to the cat like, "Hey, Tim told me to come in." He was like, "Oh yeah, man, I already know his order." So they already knew who he was. And I like, "Look, just double up, give him two." And then I paid for it, went about my way, and went back to my house. I ain't never told nobody that story,
Wow.
because for those type of stories, there's nothing to tell, because there's no reward for me by telling everybody that I did that.
Right. Right.
So it's only satisfaction for me, because I know that I did it, and I know that something greater is going to come back to me for me being so selfless and giving him one, and then doubling it up. I didn't even have to do that.
Yeah.
And it's not some grand gesture or anything, but it was beneficial to him, because he's sitting out there and he ain't had nowhere to go. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't. You could tell he was homeless. So I wanted to do something, because I had the ability to do it.
Mm-hmm. I know this might be offensive to maybe some of your viewers, but I'm a child of God. I pray.
Hmm.
I pray. I pray. And and sometimes when I'm in a not so good moment, I mean, I don't want to say a depression moment, but yeah, I'll say that because I'm so driven. Like
Yeah.
like if people really knew how competitive and how driven I am, it would shock them because I've just learned how to hide it. I'm going to be, I'm really hard on myself. And sometimes I get upset at myself,
Hmm.
right? And I kind of like withdraw because I'm that competitive. I'm that driven. And when I fall into a funk, one of the ways that I've learned how to get out of that is I'll just open up my social media and I just start blessing people. God bless you. God bless you. I mean, I don't feel like doing it right. I just, God bless you. God bless. Because I take that energy that's flowing inward and I turn it outward. It's the
Okay.
same energy and I turn it outward because you always want to be a fountain, not a whale. I saw that in a movie recently. I just like, wow, that's me right there. So I purposely take the energy and I turn it outward and let it flow outward. And I prime the pump till it flows outward. And guess what? It pulls me right out that funk every time.
Wow. That it, that is that is something to live by.
Yeah.
Be a fountain and not a whale.
Hmm.
Like, that analogy is so powerful. Just I'm blown away by it. I'm
Well,
blown away by it.
I saw it. I saw it in a movie. It was called The Forge. It's out
Mhm.
actually, and it's really trippy because no one's talking about this movie. A fantastic movie, and when he said that, it just said, "Oh yeah, that's me right there." Yeah.
So now, let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
Now, you said it. Your father, you have your son, and you're showing a blockchain, and you're trying to show him everything that for him to be more successful in the future, right?
Hmm.
So, can you explain the importance of being a father to your son, and what values
Man,
did you teach him that you had to learn?
ah, I mean, that's a totally different episode. Because there's so much. There's so much. There's so much. Wow. First of all, a father brings a presence.
Right.
A father brings a presence that creates a level of stability in a kid that grounds them to where the kid doesn't have an orphan mindset. Orphan mindset, you can always tell a person who has an orphan mindset because their eyes are always moving back and forth because there's no stability in their soul. When you meet a person and their eyes are always moving, there's no stability in their soul. They're dangerous people because it's all about me. I got to get mine. I got to get my hustle on, right?
Right.
But when you have but when you have a father that just creates a grounding in you, it is absolutely amazing. I can always tell men when I talk to them if they had a father in their life. Just just by the stability that's in their soul. So number one, the grounding is created from the presence of a father. Number two, a father gives protection. Just to, I mean, I am I I am prepared even now, he's in college. I am prepared to lay my life down for my son. I am prepared to lay my life down for my wife. It's like thoughts go through my head like, yep, if I got to do it, I got to do it because I can't live with myself without doing it. So I have to be prepared for that day. If I got to do it, I have to do it. I will do it. And because I live my life like that, it creates a security in him and her. It creates a level of security and it gives them freedom. You know what it's like? It's like the chessboard, right? So the queen on the chessboard is loud.
Right.
She could do whatever she wants. She moves all over the board. She moves everywhere. She just creates havoc, right? Because she knows that if she gets in trouble, all she has to do is come and sit right next to the king, and the king got her.
Mm.
Okay. But the king can only move one space at a time. The queen moves all over the board. She does what she has to do.
Right.
And and when it gets hot, she moves back and she sits right next to the king. And whoever's come close, they're gonna get their head cut off.
Fact.
That's what a husband's job is, to create that environment. To create that environment.
And the funny part is, I play chess, so so I know exactly what you're talking about. So if you don't play chess, you'll understand the
Right.
combination between that king and queen.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
queen can move all over the board, but you know, gotta protect the king.
Yes.
King is
Yes.
lethal, but you gotta protect the king.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Well,
So
yeah. Yeah.
what would you, so knowing the background that you had came from,
Right. Right.
and you're a speaker and everything, what do you tell young men who are facing obstacles that they're trying to get over, trying to change their life around, or just trying to do better? What
Get
advice would you give to them?
get back on the bike. So what that phrase means is that life life teaches you through failure. Okay? Life teaches you by falling off the bike. That's how you learn how to ride the bike. Somebody at some point had to get behind you and push you, and you paddled for a little bit and you fell.
Mm-hmm.
And then they picked you back up and they pushed you again. That's how you learn how to walk. You you took a step and you fell. You took another step and you fell. You know, and people pushed you, they encouraged you. Let's go, you can do it. And man, eventually, after falling off the bike, scraping your knees a few times, falling down on your butt when you learn how to walk, you learn how to do it. Two things happen in life. Number one is that you've tasted failure and it hurts so bad you don't want to try it again because our educational system teaches you that failure is bad. But number two, which it just hit me, is that there's an absence of encouragement. You know, when you're getting back on the bike, somebody's encouraging you to get back on the bike. Like, come on, let's go. You could do it. You could do it. You know,
Right.
we don't have that in our culture as much as we used to. And I've talked to a lot of leaders, and they're like, man, I mean, I've talked to CEOs. I mean, I'm like high level CEOs, and they're like, dude, I wish I had somebody to just encourage me. It's like, I can't be vulnerable. I can't even be vulnerable at home because my wife expects me to be this knight in shining armor. I can't even share my weaknesses. So you know what I'll do? I'll just sit in the car 2, 3, 4 hours by and seethe. There's no outlet, and it's so hurtful for men, especially because we're not allowed to cry. Like when we're 4 years old and 3 years old, and we fall and scrape our knee. What's the first thing they say? Get up. You're a man.
Yep.
You know. And then if we get our feelings hurt, you know, and it's like, stop crying, suck it up, be tough. Well, daggone it, those emotions were given to us by God. So now we can't express ourselves. And then we get criticized for not expressing ourselves when we get older and get married and have a relationship. And the reason why is because you're not safe.
Right.
I can't show weakness. I got to always be on my game. And that is so painful. And that hurts men. It hurt me. I mean, you have no idea how much that hurts us.
It hurts us on a very deep level.
Yeah.
The mental health behind it
God.
is worse now and post pandemic
Yeah.
than it was previously.
Yeah.
You know, before COVID, you know, man would internalize it and keep moving.
Right.
But then after so much time of isolation, after so much time of, you know, whatever anybody had experienced, where they had to go through divorce or they had a child during COVID or whatever the case is, now mental health is like at the forefront of everything, because especially for men, because we have been groomed to not share our feelings. We have been groomed not to just express ourselves, as you had stated.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worse for us because we carry so much
Yeah.
going into the world. We have to put
Yeah.
on a display every time we go out there. Every person we are introduced to, we have this facade that we're strong. We can hold our own. You
Yeah.
know, if there happens to be a fight, we got to protect.
Yeah.
You know, we have to be the smart one. We have to be the leader. We have to
Yeah.
provide guidance. There's a
Yeah.
lot of weight and responsibility
Yeah.
that comes with being a man, whether
Yeah.
you have a family, whether you have just kids, whether you go to work. Somebody is looking up to you for some kind of direction. Somebody is leaning on you for comfort, guidance, protection, and you can't get away from it. No matter who you are, there's no getting away from it. There's no walking away from it. And it's
Yeah.
consistently is always going to be there, no matter who you introduce yourself to or what they want from you. As a
Yeah.
man, that's just what they expect out of men.
Remember the actor, I think his name is Tyrese,
Yes.
and he cried on social media. He was crying,
Yeah.
and the comments, thousands of comments from women, you weak, you weak, you weak,
Soft.
you soft. And now we lose respect. And respect is like the lifeblood of a man. Okay? You weak. He's soft. He a simp. And it's like, and it's like we're not allowed to be weak.
Nope.
We're judged differently. We're not judged on our resolve. We're judged on our presence in that moment.
And here's the thing with that. If you cry or show some vulnerability or show any kind of emotion, you're not a man, you're not masculine enough, right? But if you're too masculine, you go lift weights, you're assertive, not aggressive, you're assertive, you walk around with confidence, you present yourself well. Now you have toxic masculinity.
Yeah. So yeah. This whole thing called toxic masculinity, no. So I'm gonna tell you what I tell men that I mentor. Okay. This is what I tell them. I'm like, be about your business. They'll catch up. I said, you have to be that dog. You a dog, and be about your business. They'll catch up.
Yeah.
Okay. Handle your business. Okay. Make sure that there's money in the bank. Make sure this is done. This is done. That's what you do as a man. You be about your business, no matter how ruthless you have to be. You be about your business, and let the chips fall where they may, because you can please people on the outside, and you can die on the inside to yourself. You could die. Be about your business.
I agree. Well, I'd like to thank you, Shawn Harper, for coming on our show and presenting us with so much information. I love a lot of the stuff that you have said. I know my audience is going to love all the things you have said. So much appreciation.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for showing up, man. Really, really appreciate it.
So I'm about to roll out this course. I'm gonna give y'all like a really, really big discount, but it's not up and flowing yet. But what I want you to do is you go to www.shawnharper.co. You put your email address in there. When it comes time, put the name of your show on there. I'm gonna hook y'all up. Okay?
Hey, y'all heard it here first. If y'all want to go ahead and take Shawn Harper's course, make sure you go to that web address. I'm going to put it in the description just so y'all can go ahead and get to it. But we're going to catch y'all on the next go around. Peace.
Take care.